Good morning and welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from ePowerTrade, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, PIC, Feria Racing Components, and Fifth Third Bank Motorsports. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of ePowerTrade, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 451, and we're going to be talking differential, gearboxes, and ABS with Autotech Driveline. With me this morning are Judy Kim, the co-founder of ePowerTrade, and our wonderful host, Mr. Brad Gilly. Judy?
Thank you, Francisque, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm really pleased to have Autotech Driveline on with us. I've worked with Dana and Chris for a couple decades now. You know, they do exhibit at the end of the year trade shows, but they're also showcasing on this platform for buyers that don't attend trade shows. So if you have yet to sign into this platform and reach out to hundreds of suppliers now, please do. Brad?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you very much, Judy. Really appreciate it. Look forward to chatting with you again here in just a short while, but very excited about what we have in between now and then. Today's topic, engineering insights, understanding the inner workings of differentials, gearboxes, and motorsports ABS by Autotech Driveline. And our panelists today, and Chris, you're going to have to forgive me if I get this wrong. I know I should have asked ahead of time, but
Give it a shot.
Shimonkevitz, close enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Dana Clark, much easier to pronounce, but we appreciate it. Chris is the brand manager with Autotech Driveline, and Dana is the technical director. Gentlemen, welcome. We appreciate you guys being on here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and you know what, as Judy mentioned, you know, you guys present at trade shows, towards the end of the season and all of that, and that's what this is. This is like a virtual trade show, so consider it that way. And if you have any questions as we go on about our discussion for any of our panelists, please feel free to type them in the chat. We want to get as many questions as you have, and the great thing about this is not only do we get to talk about some wonderful products and some innovations, but we also get to learn, and this is a great opportunity for that as well. So feel free to dive in anytime that you have any questions. So Dana, I'll start with you. At least you're on the left of my side. So tell us a little bit about Autotech Driveline and what you guys do.
Well, Autotech Driveline has been around for quite a while. The company's parent company started back 41 years ago, and the driveline aspect of the business kind of, just continued to grow. And as it grew, it became a more significant part of what we spent our time, working with. So we kind of started a separate driveline division of the company back in 2006. And we are predominantly performance-oriented driveline, mostly motorsport, but we do a lot of high-performance work with basically anything to do with the driveline of a vehicle, from transmissions to each wheel. So gearboxes, differentials, drive shafts, you name it.
Yeah, it's a pretty extensive amount of available products that you guys have. And, with more than 3 decades of experience in the business, it's a wonderful thing. So, Chris, maybe if you could give us a little bit of an overview about what we're going to be talking about today. Again, understanding the inner workings of differentials, gearboxes, and motorsport ABS.
Yeah, so like Dana said, we've been doing driveline for a long time now. And so we developed Wavetrac as our brand of differential that we developed in 2006 after supplying and doing other driveline stuff for years. We decided something we needed to bring to market with some benefits that we'll talk about. We also do Hollinger engineering, so sequential and H-pattern gearboxes, many fitments, transverse, longitudinal, transaxles, things like that. We also distribute for Drexler Motorsport. They do ramp and plate style differentials. And recent to our addition would be Continental Motorsport ABS, so a race ABS system that's tunable and very, not plug and play. There's a little bit of things you have to do depending on your vehicle, because every race car is a bit different, but you can tune it to work exactly how you want.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about putting all of this together and within one company with Autotech, everything from, like you said, the transmissions to the rear wheels and everything. And why, when it comes to Autotech, that's a good thing to be able to get that whole package. Maybe Dana, if you would talk about that.
Well, yeah, I think having one source for all these different components that is unified is really important for from the value aspect for sure, but also from the performance aspect of a vehicle. If you're building a project that you've already got an idea of what the engine is and what the chassis is, but you need to connect everything, we can handle all the aspects of getting that stuff done. Short of race electronics, we do everything mechanical that gets the power to the ground. So the addition of the ABS side of things is something we're just kind of getting going with. We're pretty excited about. We were working with Continental on a mutual customers project a couple years ago, and it kind of worked into an opportunity for us to help them bring it to market here in the U.S.
You know what? If you would maybe expand on the ABS side of things, especially as it relates to motorsports as well. I mean, I know we all think about our passenger cars and what that does for us as a safety aspect of it, but where does it fit into the performance side of things?
Well, there are, I would say, in modern sports car racing in particular, there's circuit racing with ABS has become more the norm than not. But ordinary ABS that comes in, let's say a road car converted for racing, has limitations. And there are things that happen in a race car on a track that are desirable, but the road car ABS may think something's incorrect. So most people will end up fighting an ordinary ABS system on a vehicle if it's came from a road car, because the parameters are completely different. The thresholds are much higher on a motorsport application. And there are things that a good motorsport ABS system has that allow the car builder or the engineers to adjust for how even the driver wants the car to feel. So it's just basically the Continental one in particular is, and I think the other competitors in the market are all similar. They're all based on the technology that was developed for road cars, but completely different level of adjustability. And we think that this is a way that at the amateur, low-level professional type racing, as the price point becomes reasonable, it's important to get as much user friendliness as possible, because there's a lot of tech going on there that I think that the system that we're working with that Continental has developed is very upfront and straightforward. You can get a car running and working well with it fairly easily, but it's got the capabilities of professional level ABS.
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes we might want to slide, depending on what you're doing, and be able to give a little bit of lockup or whatever it might be. When it comes to this system, is this like a full, complete, from the ABS pumps to the electronics to everything? What's the detail on that?
Yeah, I actually brought one up to me because I figured we'd get that question. So let's see if we can get this turned down here. So here is your box you get with your ABS kit. So you have a pump, you have little 6-axis IMU, so it can tell which way the car is doing what it's doing. Connector that'll connect to the pump. It also comes with the COM cable so that you can communicate with it with the software. There's also all the connectors that you need at the time, and they give you a dial that you can set parameters, and then you can use this dial as like a 1 to 10 and make it more or less intrusive depending on tire wear and grip and what's going on with the circuit that day, or as the race progresses, you want to conserve some more tire or do things like that. It can do that. So the kit comes pretty much complete. You just need to build your harness, sending signal to each wheel. You can use OEM wheel speed sensors or any trigger wheel you want. You don't have to use a specific one. So if you have a Honda or Toyota or Subaru, whatever, you tell it what input you're using or what the count on the trigger wheel is, and plumb brake lines. It's pretty straightforward.
I love that. I love the simplicity of it too. It sounds like at least once you get everything in and get it all working, being able to have just like a dial or something in the car. When we start talking about performance gains, and obviously you want to have that adjustability because every track is different, whether it's in length or how tight it is, the surface or whatever it might be. But the performance gains that people are starting to see with this, with the ABS in their car, especially if they're running in something that allows them to use it. What can you tell us about that?
I forget the exact numbers, but someone like Rob Dahm, a lot of people know him as crazy with rotary engines and RX-7s. He has one of these. He put in his 3-rotor that he's going to be running Pikes Peak in, and I forget what the numbers were. It was like above a G under braking, but it was like it almost doubled his braking power, or how late he could brake and how much force under braking he could apply by doing this. So he's a real tech guy. So he built his own harness and everything and did all that. There's a good YouTube video if people want to go look up and see him installing it and doing everything. And it made a huge difference. He's still obviously building that car, but we're seeing a lot of people, like you talk about Gribbett circuits. Dana was at Laguna Seca recently, and that's real abrasive now. And there's some other circuits that are less abrasive. So it's about dialing it to work for you and for that track at the time.
What do you tell someone who says, well, my left or right foot, depending on how they drive, I have much better ABS with my body than I could have with some sort of system that is understanding things a whole lot faster than I can react?
Yeah, it's one of those things, like Dana said, as technology gets better and kits like this are available and the other competitors out there, all the big teams are all running a Motorsport ABS of some sort because it can react quicker than what we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Some of the brands you talked about, Hollinger, when we talk about them, these are brands that are very, very deep in motorsports. And, you start talking about Australian V8 supercars and so on and so forth. So, as we start putting all of these components together, tell us a little bit more about them.
Well, sure. Hollinger is known, I guess, in professional circles for the probably most famously for some of the stuff they did in their own market with the V8 supercars and so forth. But what a lot of people don't realize is how, as a company that's been doing this for probably 50 years, they've gotten really good at making motorsport specific gearboxes. They are a step up from something that is modified as from a standard. We work with all different aspects of racing, from time attack to circuit racing, endurance racing to off-road desert racing, you name it, something with a transmission. We have Hollinger is what I would say one of the top several manufacturers as far as overall capabilities and quality of the product. We've been working with them for almost 20 years. And in the 35 years I've been doing driveline products, it's a real pleasure to work with this company. They are small enough to be easy to work with, but because of the footprint they have around the world with ourselves and representatives in Europe and in Australia, we've got almost 24/7 technical support for the product worldwide. And yeah, good value for money. It's professional level stuff. It's not something that we have customers that are individuals that are using this product. It's very, I would say the most common thing that I do, spending most of my time with customers, is guys building their own vehicles. And they've been doing it for a bit and they want to move into something, a little higher level. And Hollinger has a very wide range of products. We can do a lot of things with their capabilities. So it's a fun product range to work with. It's very trustworthy and it's so solid that we don't hear back from people other than to say how great it was and why didn't they do it earlier.
Yeah,
So
and you know what? That's a great thing that leads into another question, because with the brands you represent, including your own with Wavetrac, from Hollinger to Wavetrac, Drexler, Continental, you know, a lot of people are looking at something and they're saying, okay, here's what I've got. I need some type of an OEM fitment. There are a lot of people saying, this is my vision. Here's what I'm building. What can we do maybe on a little more of the bespoke side? So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's kind of what um, I say from a transmission manufacturer. Hollinger has some advantages in that sense that they make a lot of more or less universal style gearboxes that can be adapted to a lot of different applications based on the other ancillary products that we engineer, like, you know, bell housings and output flanges and all those type of things. So we can make the same basic transaxle fit a Porsche and also fit a V8 Coyote and you know, a lot of other things in between, from rotaries to electric motors to hybrid things. We do a lot of adaptation of existing products, so it's based on real sound, proven gearboxes that are basically, by our knowledge and by the knowledge of Hollinger, adapted into a project. So if a customer comes to us with, you know, a particular car and he needs a solution, he doesn't know what he needs, we can help him, you know, recommend a couple different options for what he's trying to do. And, you know, if he's planning on doing engine upgrades later or something, we can give him some recommendations based on, you know, on the gearbox based on that. Wavetrac, I can let Chris speak to that. It's very similar. Wavetrac is predominantly a replacement part for an OEM differential. That's where our standard product range is based, so that it will bolt in as close as possible to a factory unit, except offer an improvement. But we spend a large part of our business with Wavetrac in developing bespoke applications for custom vehicles or for racing or things like that, where we're making small productions of specifically unique to the customer's product. We do that in the electric car industry. We do that in off-road racing. So yeah, it's customization is really kind of what I think Autotech Driveline kind of brings together with the team of manufacturers that we're working with. We all have the ability of making great products, but Autotech Driveline is kind of your point of merge, so everything comes together and creates a system that works together well.
I like that. Chris, you want to expand on Wavetrac a little bit?
Yeah, so like Dana said, we've been doing this for over 35 years, and we supplied some other differentials over the years and realized there's some shortcomings and some benefits that could be had. So that's when we developed the Wavetrac. And the main difference is on our competitors' helical type limited slips, ATVs, when you lift or unload a wheel, essentially the unweighted wheel gets all the power, path of least resistance. So we call our wave hub in the center, a couple patented other pieces that we have that allow us to bias power across the axle at all times, but it doesn't lock. So you're not gonna get any push or understeer. It's gonna be real smooth, especially on the entry and mid corner, that whole smooth is fast mentality, right? But there's no clutches, no wearing parts. So it's great for the guy that just goes and does occasional track days to dedicated race cars. You put it in and you forget it. You're not chasing setups or anything like that, or replacing this. We obviously offer Drexler Motorsport. That's a different level of customer than most guys are going to be track day guys, and for a Wavetrac that just want to go rip around and have fun with zero maintenance. And that's what this is.
Yeah, I like that. I like the zero maintenance and the bulletproof. We'll talk a little more about Drexler and maybe where they differentiate in the customer base as well. We do have a question from the chat. And again, we want to encourage you, if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in because we want to talk about what you want to know as well. The question says, speak to the advantages of a race box versus modified street box. Besides performance, is there an economic case to be made as well?
Sure, I'll take that. Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple advantages in a gearbox designed specifically for motorsport, in particular with Hollinger. The gear systems themselves are what they call spur gears. It's a straight cut gear because that's going to give you the most torque capacity for a given environment, a given space to fill. The advantage in that a straight gear also gives you is that it doesn't create loads against bearings in other directions. So, for example, in a normal road car box that would be helical, gears inside creates a thrust that runs, fore aft. Let's say it's an inline gearbox in a front engine rear wheel drive car. The thrusts that go down the shafts have to be counteracted by a tapered roller bearing, for example, so that all the forces that are being pushed down the shaft are appropriately held by the bearings. So a bearing is one thing, and then you have to make the gearbox housing capable of withstanding the loads that the bearing is now going to have to hold. So all these things that all these forces that are not basically creating drive, they're basically an ancillary byproduct of making gears quiet and things like that, are creating more mass. So a 6-speed transmission that's in a Camaro or a Mustang or something might be in a road car might weigh 120 pounds, because there's a lot of metal there that has to be there to support the bearings and the shift system and everything else. When you make a motorsport specific gearbox that is using spur gears, we no longer have to concern ourselves with the thrust down and back the shafts. So we're using plain bearings, ball bearings on the shafts, and therefore the cases are optimized for those type of loads, not the large thrust loads that tapered roller bearings would have to contend with. So a gearbox that would have generally more capacity than a gearbox that comes from the factory in a Camaro might only weigh 80 pounds. And so you're talking about 20, 30, 40% or more weight savings in mass. And that's pretty important in a motorsport application to reduce mass. It's also, when we're designing the box for motorsport, you're also designing it for serviceability and ease of maintenance. So Hollinger is very savvy in that aspect of their product design. It's very clean, extremely well manufactured, and it makes it very simple. Hand tools can service most Hollinger gearboxes down to nothing. You can strip a box with a couple of wrenches and a workbench, and that's something that can't be said for an OEM level box. An OEM box that's converted, for example, with racing gears inside, is certainly going to be an improvement on, for a motorsport application, but you're still contending with all the extra mass that was built in there and the shift mechanism that wasn't made to be a sequential mechanism or a dog engagement mechanism. So there's a lot of things that might not be as optimized for racing, because it doesn't make sense or economically or even may not make engineering sense to completely change everything inside the gearbox. May not be possible. So there's going to be some compromises made in order to get those pieces inside the housing that was already there. So being able to start from zero gives you a more optimized design. It's more efficient. Generally, it will be a longer lasting product. It also gives us the advantage in other ways as well for strength and durability.
And I like that. I'm hearing on the economic side of that question. Look, time is money, serviceability, and everything you just said. That says a lot.
Right.
And who wants to go to the racetrack and all of a sudden have something that may be pieced together as opposed to very purpose built,
Right.
and all of a sudden spend all that money and have something go wrong? And
Well, and that's the thing that, we always try to remind people when given the opportunity that, there are a lot of aspects in costs of racing, and it's not an inexpensive thing, even if you're just doing this on a you're not racing professionally, but you have a car that you're building for track days and things like that. You're dedicating a lot of time and money just to get the car to the track in the first place. Sometimes there's hotels and there's trailer and there's tires and there's maybe guys you're buying dinner and whatever else for that are helping you out. all those aspects are costs that you're going to pay regardless of whether you race. So if you show up at the race and you spend most of your time under the car trying to figure out why something's not working right, it's a waste of money. You're spending money that you shouldn't have to. So that's part of how the philosophy of Hollinger is that they build the product with high quality in mind. So you might be looking at more upfront cost. The initial cost to purchase the gearbox might be more than some of our competitors, or some other options like updating a standard box, things like that. But in the long run, its overall cost of ownership is much lower because you're not messing with it all the time, and the parts last really long because of the quality and the attention to detail they take. So there's a lot of costs that people don't realize. All that cost the last thing you want to do is show up at a race and not be able to race. So.
Right. And look, anytime you save on one thing is time that you can spend on actually making other parts of your car better, faster,
exactly. Yeah.
Whatever it might be. Chris, if I could, let's talk about the customer base too of Autotech Driveline and your typical customer, and maybe even, is there a dividing line between Wavetrac and you mentioned Drexler? Like what are we looking at as far as customers go?
It's pretty broad. Like I said, it's guys that just want to do track days or have a GTI. We started Volkswagens 40 years ago, so we have a big Volkswagen base, but guys with a Civic or who knows that wants to go just do a track day on the weekend, to Formula Drift. People like Ryan Turek, Chris Forsberg, and others are using the Hollinger sequentials. Multimatic and the Mustangs are using Hollinger as well. And then we have a lot of guys that are doing standing mile. And since the gearboxes are so customizable, we can do any ratio you want. So we can obviously fit it into whatever package you need and any ratio you want. So the range is there. And then again, we have that Drexler that's more of a, it's a pure motorsport differential. Works great. Different acting and how it reacts than a Wavetrac does. It's more, it'll create more lock to the wheel. You make it a little more push out of the corner, but it gets more drive. Some people prefer that. And again, it's more motorsport diff. So it just depends on what you're doing. And we can pretty much recover it.
Yeah, and it's interesting when we start talking about driveline things. I know we started the conversation talking about ABS, and maybe if we can sort of bring all of those things together as well, with the ABS and where it comes into play when, I'm calling Autotech and saying, here's what I want to do, how everything fits into the complete package.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're building. We have a customer building a race car right now that he's running Wavetrac differentials front and rear, and the factory ABS is something like Dana mentioned earlier, it just can't react in the right way. It actually gets a bit dangerous because of what it wants to do on the track with race compounds and other things. So he's now converting it to the Motorsport ABS, but he's not a race team. He's just a guy that's doing club racing, and he's able to do that. But then we have others that are professional race teams that will run this kit, and for the cost of the kit, it's around $7,500. And it comes with everything you need to basically get you going with the software and the comm cable and all the hardware besides, again, like those brake lines and running the wiring.
And I think
pretty easy.
Going back to what you were saying, Brad, having ABS as part of our driveline product line was a good fit for us, only because it's a lot of the same people that are looking for the components that we've been doing for so long are also trying to come to grips with how to optimize the braking in the car. We don't sell brakes, we don't do any of that stuff, but we do have a good working relationship with the guys in Continental Engineering in Germany because of other business, and it just seemed like a natural thing for us to try to take on because we're already in the same marketplace here in the US with guys that are building one-off cars or guys that are building small series that are able to incorporate something like this without having to go into really horrendous money to get something like this developed. There are very good ABS systems out there, but it's still fairly new in motorsport. In some areas completely new. And it's still dominated by one or two companies predominantly. So it's nice to be able to come into something that is simple enough for an individual to figure out, but also capable enough to be in a fully built OEM application. So it was based on work that Continental was doing with KTM on their Crossbow GT2 car, and that ability in building a high level race car and seeing capabilities of how ABS can optimize things was really where this system was born. The same engineering group that helped that system with KTM is the one that, was discussing how, geez, this system is simple enough with good software on the front end of it. We could be able to make this system, more accessible to the average guy. And we were excited about it when we were working with them on that project for gearboxes, but just came into being, and it seems like a good fit.
Yeah, those are some great credentials as well. I get purpose, professional teams and things like that. They're constantly doing things, but we talk a lot about too, the track day racer and different things like that. Is there any sort of, while you're in there, advantage to, hey, if we're looking at one thing, maybe let's look at multiple things and take care of it all at once?
I guess the beauty of everything is that the stuff that we do is that it doesn't necessarily have to be done all at once. I mean, it would be, we can work within individual small budget stuff depending on what they're doing, but yeah, once you get into transmissions and things, it's a fairly serious investment. But yeah, it's one of those things that it does make sense to try to, if there's an opportunity for us to improve the overall performance of the vehicle, and we would certainly offer it to somebody. We're not forcing anybody to take any of the particular components that we sell along with something else that they're interested in, but it happens to often work that way because they know what we know.
Mm-hmm. Chris, let's dig a little bit deeper into Autotech as well. And if you want to expand on that, but maybe some of the other capabilities that you have.
I mean, these are the main four brands that we do, especially with the Wavetrac being our brand, that we do a lot of OE type of gearbox replacement, differentials, upgrades. A huge application for us is a Ford 9-inch, Ford 9-inch people like Moser and Strange and Curry and all these guys beyond that do 9-inch replacements. That's a huge market still. And a lot of guys, pro touring and autocross is huge right now. So that's a big thing for us. But we do bespoke one-off Wavetracs, or we have customers like KTM. Dana mentioned they run Hollinger in the the motorsport car, but they run Wavetrac in the road car. So we do things like that. Cascadia Motion with their electric motor. We do differentials for them. So the Wavetrac capability is pretty extensive for what we can do. 130 or 40, I forget how many applications we have now for that. So do a lot with that. Again, Hollinger, anything with a tooth form or a spline, we can do. Dana mentioned we do shafts and gears and other things for other customers as well.
That's really neat. Now I'm looking at building my project. Can I just call you guys at Autotech? Maybe we sit down for a little while on the phone and, get some details together, figure out what the best solution is. How does that work?
Yeah, it depends on what part of the project you're on. Guys are trying to figure out, hey, I'm running this motor. What gearbox should I be running, or ratio should be running? And Dana can calculate all that based off of tire size and horsepower and what you're doing. With the differential, we can do the same thing. The great thing about the Wavetrac is there's no tuning that's needed. The wave hub acts like a cam or a load generator, so it knows when there's a wheel lift or spin. So we make a differential that fits in your car, and like we talked about earlier, it's a fit and forget type of thing. So we can do anything for anybody, really. It's just knowing what your end goal is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. How deep is your wallet on some of these things as well? But it's our hobby, right? And sometimes gets a little expensive, but it's what we love and what we do.
Yeah, but it's right. It's what we love for for all of us. This is investment and in what our passion is and all of that. But Dana, on the flip side of that, maybe sometimes I don't know what I need, or maybe my investment does need to be a little bit more. Maybe it doesn't even need to be as much. When you start talking about putting systems together and from the technical side dealing with people, can you give us a little more insight on that?
Well, sure. I mean, a typical inquiry that we get here is usually based around, I think from my side, it's usually about the transmissions as the starting point. So if they're building let's say they're building a Mustang for track use and they want, they've seen what the Mustang GT4s are doing in professional racing and they want to have something like that. We can help them determine whether that, we can give them a package that gives them everything from the flywheel, back to the diff. And the simple ones that we've had a lot of experience with are cars like that, where we have, a Mustang, for example, because that's a very common application for us for racing. Building cars for track use. They want to have a paddle shifted, sequential box like a GT4 car has. We can do that with standardized parts that we make. But I do get a lot of applications where someone's calling up with something I've never had dealings with before, all different sorts of power plants, from motorcycle engine-based V8 engines to rotaries to electric motors to all kinds of things. So as I said before, Hollinger is very capable of dealing with one-offs. So taking an existing Hollinger transmission and being able to position that in the car and adapt it to the engine and to the rest of the drivetrain is something they're very good at. And they've been doing it for so long. We do have a surprisingly large number of things that can adapt to the various engines that are popular in performance industries. So just about anything with a V8 or a turbo engine these days is something we've got, parts we can make work. But yeah, let's be honest, it's not a small investment to put a sequential gearbox in a car, and maybe some people don't realize that when they start exploring. I'm happy to talk to anybody that is interested in the prospect of doing such a thing. And there are budgets from, $10,000 might be too much to spend for some people, and I understand that. But most of our transmissions are well above that level. So it's a pretty serious decision to move forward on something like this. And I think that regardless of the total budget, I think it's still a benefit to be able to offer them outside of the electronic side of things. We can offer them everything they would need and advice on related components in one place. And we're just a phone call away. So
yeah.
And like you asked, what's our customer base? It's anything like Dana's talking about from the end, like this motorsport team to just the enthusiast, where they want to buy that Ford 9-inch or K20 diff that's about $800. It's pretty budget friendly. Just have gearboxes can be a little bit daunting, but they're not too bad. Crack it open and pop a diff in, and you notice the gains immediately from simple things. A lot of people chase some other componentry or other fixes when really a differential can make a huge difference in how the car performs. And again, with that consistent time that we can offer or performance.
Yeah, and it was interesting when Chris, when you were showing us the ABS and the adjustability and things like that, and the ease of that. again, that's awesome for the racer who might be regionally racing, nationally, going to different tracks, whatever it might be. But also, if I'm the one going to my local club, whatever it might be, and I really want to optimize where I'm going and what I'm doing every single week, just to be able to dial that in, and where Autotech comes in on that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of guys that are just enthusiasts like us that are building things in their garage, and they just want to have fun and be, again, worry free. And that's really where the Wavetrac falls into that, something that's made in America, lifetime warranty, which you should never have to use, and just fit and forget type of thing.
And I think just on the Wavetrac side of things, just thinking about the scope of the average customer is someone who's looking to upgrade an existing road car for either a blend of street and racing, or racing in particular, or even just completely street use, just trying to get the benefit of extra traction. It's always a good thing. But we also have the other end of the spectrum, where we're doing a lot of specialized Wavetrac differentials for the motorsport side of things. From we do a lot of the desert racing, off-road race industry differentials, predominantly in the front axle of all-wheel drive trucks and buggies. We do a lot of bespoke differential assemblies and internal components for that industry. So a lot of the names that are out there that people know of and don't realize that our product is in there, but it's exciting to see all the different things that Wavetrac has been used in and still continues to thrive in. So the first visual at looking at the application list is, performance oriented road cars, but there's so much more to it that we're able to do. So we have a lot of startups, we have a lot of small manufacturers that are building small runs of specialized cars for track use or even for road use, things like that. So there's a lot of interesting things going on. It keeps it interesting for us. So we're always excited to come to work every day.
Yeah, I do want to ask, like, what is like the typical turnaround? Are these things that, hey, I'm looking toward what I want to do next year, or maybe I'm looking toward what I want to do next month? What do you have ready for me now?
Well, in the case of Wavetrac, there's predominantly everything is in stock and constantly being manufactured and built. So lead times on Wavetrac our differentials are pretty short. A customized thing, it could be half a year in the time we are discussing development and the aspects of tuning and fitment with the customer, and then manufacture. Hollinger gearboxes are all built to order. So as a rule, lead times are kind of long. They're extremely high demand product right now. And we're not Hollinger is not a big company. So I think in general in the motorsport gearbox industry, this is pretty similar, pretty familiar territory. Most people are used to waiting a fair amount. I mean, lead times on a Hollinger gearbox can be anywhere from 3 to 9 months, depending on the complexity of the system and whether it's stuff that we've already done before, or if it's stuff that we have to start from zero and engineer.
Mm-hmm. You know what though, but the experience, the size, I like, when you start talking about not a big company, being able to get that personal treatment and everything that you guys do. Dana, Chris, I'll tell you what, very enlightening, very educational, and obviously some amazing products. We really appreciate you taking time with us here today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Great session. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted later on the ePortrait platform, distributed through our newsletters and social media channels. In the meantime, please visit the platform. We have pushed Autotech Driveline back on the homepage of ePortrait. Next week, webinar will be on performance diesel piston with UEM and total seal. For more updates and information, please visit www.eportrait.com.   Once again, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
ePartTrade is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
ePartTrade, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
ePartTrade really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
Where will you find Farea Racing components? Circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop. In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Farea Racing components. Stand with us or race against us.